Today, I'm going to be counting down the top 12 best weapons for Destiny 2 PvP right now. These are some must-have weapons that will get you the best possible results in PvP, whether you're playing Iron Banner, Trials, or just regular Control. I'll be ranking each of these weapons from worst to best, talking about the optimal perks and roles, and explaining why I think each weapon deserves a spot on the list. And yes, I will also include some honorable mentions that still pack a punch, but they may be a bit more off meta and not quite as powerful as the top 12. I think it's important to note that this video is not about the most popular, most used weapons, but instead it's about the weapons that I believe to be the most powerful. It's true that the most used weapons are sometimes also the most powerful, but that isn't always the case, and you'll see what I mean as we get towards the end of the video. Some of my rankings may surprise you. Before you're surprised by my weapon rankings though, you might also be surprised at how I rank the champions in the sponsor of today's video, Raid Shadow Legends. And since my name is Shadow, it's only logical for Raid to sponsor this video. I love when games do seasonal themed events, and with Halloween right around the corner, we've got Destiny's Festival of the Lost and Raid's spooky Halloween themed champions. Since this video is already on the theme of ranking stuff, let's rank my top 3 favorite spooky champions. Coming in at number 3 is Rotos the Lost Groom because he has this insane ability that reduces his opponent's maximum HP by 20% and then adds it to his own maximum HP. Next up, I think Harvest Jack is awesome because just look at him. He almost has Witch Queen vibes, and he has this AoE ability that places a big debuff on the opposing team. At the number 1 spot, I put Brachus because he dishes out a lot of single target damage with abilities like Full Moon Rampage, where he attacks up to 6 times in a single turn. There's always something new going on in Raid, but this month they've got a pretty stacked Halloween lineup with events like tournaments against other players and fragment events to unlock new champions like the Halloween ones I just discussed. So there has never been a better time to get started. If you want to jump in, there's a QR code on screen now and link in the description that will give new players within the next 30 days an epic hero named Chanuru, 200k silver, an XP boost, energy refill, and Ancient Shard. Thanks again to Raid for sponsoring today's video. Getting back to the topic of today's video, I put a weapon at the 12th spot that might be a little controversial because there has been a lot of hype around the Prophecy weapons recently. The weapon I'm talking about is the Darkest Before Pulse Rifle that drops from the final Prophecy dungeon boss. It's quite convenient that it drops from the same exact encounter as another much higher ranking weapon in this video, and this encounter can be easily farmed over and over until you get exactly the role you want. It's a rapid fire frame with some decent overall perks including Slide Shot, Surplus, Overflow, Rampage, and Elemental Capacitor. Although I would have liked to see Kill Clip here, it's not really an issue I have with this weapon because it does have some fine perks and good stats that landed it in this video. The reason why I put this weapon lowest on the list has more to do with its archetype. Honestly, I don't think 540 pulses are very powerful. They do dish out a lot of bullets and cause a lot of flinch, especially with high caliber rounds, but they are kinda awkwardly positioned in the range spectrum. With max range perks, the Darkest Before can reach up to 34 meters, but that's only like 5 meters further than SMGs like Sheriff's Wrath. SMGs will dominate in close range, so that kinda just leaves a small window where the Darkest Before can excel. Anything beyond that, scouts, snipers, and all the other pulse rifles will have no problem beating this weapon. Since it fires so fast, it can't peek shoot as well as other pulses, so it's really a mid to close range dueling weapon. It's pretty good at doing that, but it's not nearly as versatile and powerful as some of the other weapons coming up, so that's why I think it deserves a spot at number 12. At number 11, I put the Igneous Hammer 120 RPM hand cannon from the Trials of Osiris. Anyone who played during the 120 hand cannon meta remembers either loving or hating the Igneous Hammer, as it was just head and shoulders above every other hand cannon in the game. After these hand cannons got nerfed though, everyone seemed to just forget about the Igneous. Usage plummeted as everyone moved on to looking for the next hot choice for PvP. In my opinion though, Igneous has been flying under the radar for quite a while now. It has way better stats than every other 120 in the game, so it really handles and recoils much more like a 140. Even though Igneous can no longer 2-tap with Rampage, it can roll with phenomenal consistency perks like Opening Shot, Moving Target, Elemental Capacitor, Rapid Hit, Quick Draw, and Killing Wind. With almost any combination of these perks, the ease of use of the Igneous is unparalleled. It becomes very easy to hit headshots even under heavy fire, and you can 3-tap while still hitting a body shot. It also pairs extremely well with other weapons in team shooting scenarios. I was using this weapon yesterday in Trials with my friends, and we were just annihilating everybody with team shots. But Shadow, Igneous fires slower than 140s, and therefore it will always lose in a 1v1. Well, not really. If you get the first shot in an engagement, the rates of fire are so similar that the Igneous will almost always come out on top. Even if you both start firing at the same time, you're kinda likely to trade against a 140 due to Destiny servers being the way that they are. And because Igneous outputs so much damage and therefore flinch, it can be a surprisingly good weapon to duel with. Moving on, at rank number 10, I put a weapon that has been pretty hot lately. It seems that everyone who can get their hands on this thing falls in love with it. That's right, I'm talking about the Vex Mythoclast from the Vault of Glass raid. This weapon is quite rare as it takes most players several weeks of doing the raid on all 3 characters before it drops, but since it really excels in certain PvP situations, it deserves a spot on this list. I know many of you probably think this weapon should be ranked better in like the #1 spot or something close to that, but I actually don't think it's quite that strong. So just hear me out first, and then if you still disagree, feel free to tell me why in the comments. Overall, there's no disputing that Vex is an insane auto rifle that's fairly intuitive to use. If a Vex user catches you out in the open and they can control the recoil, you're getting deleted. It has a time to kill of 0.77 seconds and requires 5 crits and 1 body shot. It feels almost like a pre-nerf Gnawing Hunger, except it fires slower and bounces a bit more, which can make the recoil hard to control at long ranges for some players. Although I think the auto rifle form is pretty powerful, especially after it got buffed, it still comes with the regular limitations of auto rifles. It's pretty garbage in the air, and as an exotic, it can't get an Icarus mod, and since it unleashes a continuous stream of bullets, you can't really dip in and out of cover like you could with a hand cannon. A good hand cannon player will still often beat a Vex player if both of them are making good use of cover. So that's why I'm not going to rank this quite as high as some of the other weapons in this video. After building up enough stacks of overcharge, Vex can be transformed into a linear fusion. It's basically like Arbalest or Lorentz Driver, except it has a ton of aim assist. Especially for controller players, the Vex in linear fusion form is incredibly strong. However, in modes like Trials of Osiris, it's rare to gather enough stacks of overcharge to activate the secondary fire mode, so the auto rifle form is kind of the main way to look at this weapon. While we're on the topic of linear fusions, I ranked all linear fusions next on the list at spot number 9. And yes, I'm talking about every heavy linear fusion rifle in addition to Lorentz Driver and Arbalest. If you've watched any of my streams, twitch.tv/ShadowDestiny by the way, then you know I'm a big proponent of heavy linear fusion rifles. I think they're incredibly overlooked and very, very powerful, especially in 6v6. If you don't believe me, just watch this background gameplay. I know most players opt for the more explosive heavy weapons like rocket launchers, and that's fine, but if you can aim in the general direction of an opponent's head with a linear fusion, you get free headshots. Like anything above the waist usually counts as a headshot, and if you manage to get 2 stacks of Rampage, you can just body shot everyone in their toes while flying through the air until you get a 7th column. When I use rockets, I generally get like 1, 2, and very occasionally 3 kills, but with linear fusions, I almost always get 4 or 5 because it gives 5 shots per ammo brick. Most of my friends think I'm insane, but I even use heavy linear fusion rifles in Trials because they can just shoot through all the flinch and they magnetize to the head. I've surprised many a Trials team by just wiping them with my Tarantula.
Oh, so gross. Oh, no! What? He's insane.
Of course, there are also the special ammo linears, the Lorentz Driver and the Arbalest. Lorentz has been a pretty hot topic lately, and it's really good because it can body shot in like a million different ways. If you get high energy fire and a standard charge with light build going, and then pop on the catalyst and collect those telemetry things on the ground, this thing can just chain body shots forever. You can even inertia override on a Titan, and it just feels like you're cheating. Arbalest, although previously infamous for dominating the console PvP meta, is still pretty good, but it got nerfed and isn't really on the level of Lorentz. But hey, I mean, if you like using it, go right ahead, it's still pretty powerful. Oh, and did I mention that all of these linear fusions have almost no flinch? With the standard 25 zoom that these things have, the flinch is almost non-existent, and it feels so OP to just destroy a primary user after they've shot you several times. Next up, we have the Fatebringer and Judgment hand cannons. I decided to rank these together because they're fairly similar, and although Fatebringer is probably the superior dueling choice due to the presence of explosive payload perk dealing an absurd amount of flinch, these 2 hand cannons fulfill about the same role in the sandbox. After Bungie decided to nerf those crazy 120 hand cannons that were 2-tapping everyone from across the map, 140s like Judgment and Fatebringer have become top contenders. Whether you like it or not, hand cannons will always be near the top of the meta, but don't worry, there's tons of variety in this video because I didn't want to exclusively mention hand cannons, shotguns, and snipers. So, what makes these 2 weapons stand out? As I mentioned earlier, Fatebringer can get explosive payload, and it can rock opening shot for bonus range and aim assist, kill clip for extra damage, and Eye of the Storm for accuracy in the final column. These are all amazing perks. Judgment can also get opening shot, and my personal role has both opening shot and moving target, so this weapon has an absurd amount of aim assist. Hand cannons are pretty forgiving to begin with, but with really any combination of opening shot, moving target, tunnel vision, or hand cannon targeting mods, Judgment can easily reach 100 aim assist, and that just makes it really crispy for both M&K and controller. If you've watched enough of my other videos, you'll know that I'm always encouraging people to peek shoot in PvP, and these hand cannons work extremely well with that type of positioning, and it allows them to really shine. Overall, these are both very viable primaries that can take you far in any PvP environment. I just wish I had some of those really spicy rolls I've seen you guys posting in my Discord, which you should totally join by the way, link in the description. Coming in at number 7, we have the Messenger. Yes, this is another Trials of Osiris weapon, but literally anyone can get Trials loot with Bungie's new reward system. I don't use an adept version of this weapon, and it is by no means required. This is truly the best PvP pulse rifle in the game in my opinion. Sure, there are some decent competitors like the Darkest Before that we mentioned at the start of the video, along with exotics like No Time to Explain and Vigilance Wing, but for me, the Messenger comes out on top 10 times out of 10. Messenger rolls with Desperado, which is perhaps the most insane perk on any legendary weapon right now. Reloading or dodging as a hunter after a headshot kill will give you over 7 seconds of pure destruction. When I have Desperado active, I literally feel like I'm in my super because it kills in a blazing fast 0.47 seconds and basically nothing can compete with me. Once you've got a roll with Desperado, you're probably set because almost all the perks in the other column are fantastic, so that makes it really easy to quickly get a super powerful roll on this gun. If you can get some range and stability perks and maybe even high caliber rounds to flinch your opponents to the moon, Messenger won't let you down. On any medium to long range map, this is definitely a top choice primary weapon. Coming in at number 6, we have the Palindrome. There's been some debate over the Judgment versus the Palindrome versus the Fatebringer, but personally Palindrome edges both of them out by just a hair. Fatebringer is pretty good and can output a ton of flinch with explosive payload, but to me Palindrome just feels a lot better to use. There are a lot of guns in this game that look good on paper, but the way that weapons actually feel once you test them out in game is a pretty big factor to consider, and that can depend on personal preference. Palindrome can roll with Rangefinder to outrange other 140 hand cannons by a few meters, and I find that pretty important. When the 120 hand cannon meta ended and I started using 140s again, the lack of range was initially kind of jarring. So I just love that Palindrome can push into that 36+ meter range, which actually outranges some of the pulse rifles, and I find that kind of funny. In the other column, Palindrome can roll with Killing Wind, which simply makes this gun feel even crispier after a kill with bonus handling, range, mobility, and faster movement while aiming down the sights. That column can also include Quick Draw and Overflow, which are some fun alternatives, but not as good as Killing Wind in my opinion. If you're watching this video around the time that it comes out, you can actually go into the Grandmaster Nightfall from the 12th to the 19th and farm for an Adept Palindrome. It's supposed to be a pretty good strike for farming a good roll, but hey, don't take my word for it because I only step into PvP activities like once every 3 years. For the number 5 spot, we have the Sudden Death Shotgun, which, like the Darkest Before, drops from the Prophecy Dungeon's final boss. Although the good people of the Bird app will probably try to tell you otherwise, the optimal roll for this shotgun is Threat Detector, Elemental Capacitor, Full Choke, and either Assault Mag or Accurized rounds. The main debate is between the perks called Threat Detector and Surplus. Surplus provides better handling when you have fully charged abilities, and Threat Detector speeds up the handling animation when near opponents. And since it's a shotgun, the only time drawing it quickly really matters is, yeah, when you're near opponents. Threat Detector not only allows you to draw faster than Surplus, but I feel like Surplus is an extremely annoying perk overall because you're basically shooting yourself in the foot by not using your abilities. Although Destiny is moving more and more towards a gunplay focused game with every patch, abilities still play an essential role in the sandbox, and not using them just to draw your shotgun a few frames faster is simply handicapping yourself. Okay, well now that that's out of the way, Sudden Death is just an all-around amazing shotgun and perhaps the best option for pellet shotguns at the moment. If you run an Arc subclass with Elemental Capacitor, it draws extremely fast and it just feels very consistent across the board. I did try running it with a Void subclass for some of my gameplay and it still felt pretty decent, but I definitely recommend using that Arc subclass because it adds an absurd 45 bonus handling to the weapon. And honestly, all the Arc subclasses are super viable right now. That bonus handling really makes a difference in those clutch situations where gunfights are decided by who can draw their shotgun faster. Also, just one little bonus thing I wanted to add about the Threat Detector perk is it can really help you avoid getting trolled by the radar. In Destiny, this middle chunk of your radar will ping when your opponents are at medium range, but that medium range is pretty big overall, so that's where Threat Detector comes in. This perk will pop up in the bottom left of your screen when enemies are within 15 meters, so if you see it, you can basically know your opponents are within a reasonable distance and you can confidently push out and not get baited. For number 4, I put the Multimach and the Shayera's Wrath. These SMGs are different in a lot of ways and they even occupy 2 different slots, but overall I think they're both pretty similar when it comes to their potential for Destiny 2 PvP. Starting out with the Multimach, this is an Iron Banner SMG that you probably don't have a good roll on due to RNG, but man, it really melts people. Like, just look at this destructive potential. Especially if you're lucky enough to get a roll with Kill Clip, this weapon deletes people at close range like nothing else in the game. Except maybe Teraba. This weapon comes with sights, and it's actually super important to use the Model 8 Red Scope. It gives you the maximum zoom, and zoom matters an insane amount for SMGs. A bad scope versus a good scope on this weapon can make up nearly 7 meters of range difference on a good roll of this SMG, so just make sure you're using the Model 8 Red. This SMG comes with some phenomenal perks, including Kill Clip, Killing Wind, and even Iron Reach that can push the effective range of this SMG out even further. In my opinion, this SMG feels exactly how an SMG should feel in Destiny. It kills super fast in close range, but struggles anywhere beyond that 22 to 25 meter range, especially if you're trying to manage the recoil on controller. On the other hand, Shayra's Wrath is just on another level when it comes to engagement range. A good roll can be fully functional up to 29 meters, and even beyond that with Killing Wind. This thing feels like an auto rifle. Like, not even joking, it has about the same effective range as a max range Gnawing Hunger. Since it's technically an SMG though, it's quite effective in the close range too. It might not be as effective as the multi-mock when it comes down to time to kill, but it still does just fine. Shayra's can roll with some awesome perks like Killing Wind, Heating Up, and Tunnel Vision, which pairs conveniently with Kill Clip. If you're looking for pure consistency though, you can also get Tap the Trigger or Elemental Capacitor to get some super high stability. Overall, these SMGs really shine in the current meta, and especially because the Shadow Dive and Glacier Grenade combo is officially getting a nerf, these SMGs will only become more dominant in the close range as time goes on. For the number 3 spot, I put my favorite sniper in the game, the Eye of Soul. Let's jump into why this thing is so powerful, because you guys always ask me why I think it's the best, and it's often compared to competitors like Frozen Orbit, Shepherd's Watch, and Adored. Eye of Soul has incredibly high base stats, and with perks like Moving Target and potentially the Adept targeting mod on the Adept version, it can reach levels of aim assist that few other snipers can. It also has 45 zoom, which I consider to be the sweet spot. My role has opening shot, which you unfortunately can't get anymore if you want to have snapshot with it, but wow, it's just next level. This perk is perfect for snipers because it gives bonus accuracy, range, and aim assist on opening shots. And I mean, most snipes you take will technically count as opening shots. It's also worth mentioning that Eye of Soul doesn't receive much flinch, so it's one of the best snipers for combating other people shooting you with their primaries. Although I've chosen to rank the Eye of Soul at this spot in the list, another sniper could easily take its place based on your personal preferences, so let me know in the comments if you prefer a different sniper. Number 2, the Ace of Spades. From its shot-based kill clip to high caliber rounds to Third Eye to Firefly, this gun has it all. It really feels like this hand cannon has every perk in the game. Ace has been consistently good on all input devices at basically all times since it came out, but at the moment it's really shining in the meta. With Memento Mori active, it can reach some really distant 3-tap ranges, and it just deals an absurd amount of damage. I've also found that Ace flinches a ton with Memento Mori active, so it's naturally an ideal weapon for dueling other primary weapons and for countering snipers. There seems to be some confusion about this, so I went into a private match to test it for you guys. The left is just normal Ace of Spades, and the right is Ace of Spades with Memento Mori active. As you can see, the flinch on the left puts my reticle up by my HP bar, but on the right, my reticle has completely gone off the screen. So I think it's safe to say that Memento Mori is just nuts. In terms of the visual flinch, it seems to be more than double. So yeah, if you're having trouble fighting snipers, just put on Ace, and it will basically be impossible for them to snipe through that flinch. Although Ace is pretty good on all platforms, I will say that I think it's just a tad more viable on PC, because on controller, the recoil can feel jarring compared to other 140 RPM hand cannons. Overall, Ace is just an all-around amazing option with great stats, like 129 perks, and it's just really easy for anyone to get, so I have no problem ranking it at the number 2 spot. Before we get to the number 1 spot, let me just cover a few honorable mentions. First off, the Last Word and Crimson are probably A+ or S tier hand cannons for controller players, but since I'm ranking these weapons based on their performance in the overall game of Destiny 2 on all platforms, I'm afraid I can't put these at number 1. Last Word can kill people with a blazing fast time to kill, and it's just a classic sniper pairing, and Crimson is like the stickiest, most lethal kill chaining weapon that a controller player could ask for. Another honorable mention is Fellwinter's Lie. I feel like this weapon has been nerfed a trillion times at this point, but it's really easy to get, and it's a solid option for someone who might not have a good roll on other shotguns yet. Another honorable mention, all high impact pulse rifles and Vigilance Wing. They're all decent options for PvP, and if you can be accurate enough to 2-burst with them, they're extremely lethal. And last but not least, my final honorable mention is Duality. It can be a pellet shotgun for quick knee-jerk reactions in close range, but it can also be a slug shotgun to extend its range a bit, and that makes it a very versatile option. With all that said, allow me to introduce you to the number 1 best weapon in Destiny 2 PvP, the Chaperone. I'm sure many of you guys are aware of the ridiculous mapping potential of this weapon, but allow me to give you a little timeline to illustrate how this gun got to where it is today. Starting out way back in Season 4, the Chaperone was introduced into the game. It was quite powerful, but there were many crazy pellet shotguns that could kill from almost as long without requiring any accuracy, and players gravitated towards those. As the years went by, pellet shotguns got nerf after nerf after nerf, until somewhat more recently, the slide nerf increased their pellet spread, and it feels like pellet shotguns have just generally become less reliable. Meanwhile, all this time, the Chaperone has remained unscathed, only losing like a meter of range. It has emerged as the undisputed king of shotguns. It's true that Chaperone does require a headshot, so presumably it needs a few more frames of aiming time than a pellet shotgun, but it more than makes up for that in the sheer amount of range that it has. On top of being able to kill an opponent from like halfway across the map, the bullets on Chaperone are insanely magnetic. So if you just kind of shoot in the general direction of their head or towards the upper part of their body, that's an almost guaranteed kill. Oh, and if you manage to get the Roadborne perk active, nobody stands a chance. I love weapons like Chaperone and Messenger because their perks are fairly easy to activate, and they just make you unstoppable afterward, which is a great feeling. And I guess there's also this clip. I would feel 100% comfortable using a sniper at this range. This is 25 meters. But Chaperone has no problem just annihilating me with the assistance of the Lunafaction boots. In my view, the Chaperone is head and shoulders above every other slug shotgun in terms of range and ease of use, and the only reason why you would ever want to use something else is if you're using an exotic primary that prevents you from equipping this absolute sniper. Would you rank these weapons in a different order, or do you think that I missed a weapon that should be in the top 12? Let me know in the comments because I genuinely want to hear what you guys think is powerful and fun to use in PvP. It takes quite a lot of time to research, plan, script, record, and edit these videos, so if you enjoyed, a like rating down below would be super appreciated. Next up, if you want to get better at PvP, just click the video on the top right of your screen now because it covers the #1 rule you should be following if you want to see more success in the Crucible.